Ever since I founded Brave Sis Project in 2019, I always knew I wanted to later tell a story about Black, Brown, Asian, and Indigenous women from outside of the United States. Going back to my grad school degree at the Sorbonne on French Caribbean women's literature, my inner life has been that of a citizen historian, an amateur cultural ethnographer, and a full-body story weaver. I'm also a would-be tourist, of the mind at least, not just to countries I may never have the privilege and honor to visit, but also to moments in time, setting myself as a silent observer of contexts and times that were heroic. Perhaps only notable in retrospect because, after all, much of life is about just doing the daily doings, keeping one's foot in front of the other. So many of these women I've chosen to sit with were not seeking out to be superheroes or memorialized in any anthology. They just wanted to make things a little better. Some just wanted to have a better time. Many felt tapped on the shoulder to say, do, sing, write, activate more than what was placed bore them by accident of birthplace, timeline, or gender. I was recently talking with my older daughter about what is the purpose of a life. As a young woman coming up in the go-go 80s, I was acclimated by dint of my education and unstable rung on a so-called ladder of privilege. Being first gen is a constant reminder of there but for the grace of God. I was acclimated to thinking I had to do big things in life. I was morally obligated to give back or be some kind of leader for others. There was an expectation of striving, never attaining, but certainly not complaining about the climb. We were conditioned to believe material gain, wealth, and comfort were the payoffs for this sacrifice. Today, in a world and moment where women of color were offered so many exciting promises over the past near decade, only to have them snatched away with such a ghastly gusto, I have pause. I started this book, though it was in me for a long time, as a response to my disappointment and disarray following the 2024 election. Like many Black American women, I was done. Done with an America that only seemed to want us to hold a prescribed, lesser, helper role. Done with white women who only wanted to be friends with us when we played the role of sidekick, lesser, other, fun, but one-dimensional. Done with taking on the symbolic burdens of a society, being the Olivia Pope fixers of the world, the caretakers, the smiling friends with no backstories of our own. I didn't want any part of it. I needed to retreat into a sisterhood of melanin and anti-colonialist liberatory dreaming. I wrote this book for myself. This book is entitled World Brave Sis, 100 Dreamtime Dialogues with Women Who Led the Way. Dreamtime Dialogues because the alliteration is evocative and fluid, as these are imagined interviews with foremothers from outside the U.S. who are no longer with us on this earth, but who can inspire us greatly today. Outside the U.S. meaning one is from the U.S., but the other 99 are from other countries or from nations and cultures that are not recognized, or Indigenous people living within broader nation states. If you read my Nautilus Award-winning book, Our Brave Foremothers, celebrating 100 Black, Brown, Asian, and Indigenous women who changed the course of history, Workman Hachette, you could imagine this was coming. I feel this book is me in dialogue with the past, looking toward the future, thinking of the present. I seek to channel the essence and voice and stories of these women, placing them in the context and mores of when they lived, but with the wise attitude of today. Not in an overbearing or snarky way, just with strength, conviction, and the necessary finger waving at the stupid boys and men in their grisly ways seen again and again throughout history. I want to give these women a chance to tell their story as the all-knowing creatures we are. Women being the way they identify themselves. I do hope that people of all identities will find parts of themselves in this book. At the same time, they are educating us, and by us, I mean myself, about the vastness of our world, the valor of the histories we are not ever taught, and the value of these lives of our planetary co-inhabitants, far from what can be matrixed through a GDP, a carbon footprint, or birth rate. How and what do these 100 women teach us about so many countries and countries within countries and cultures that we might do well to know and respect, and in a few or many ways, emulate? I need to give them a chance to tell their story. All 100. My husband and I dispute the number. He says that's too many people. Maybe, I reply, this book will be 2 volumes. Once I found the women and their stories, jettisoning any one of them was as impossible as loving one child more than another. So, what you are holding, or will be holding in your hands this time, is part cultural history book, part historical fiction, with dreamed psychic channeling. I like that idea, psychic channeling. I've become the portal as the person capturing the interview. And a bit of personal history, for I do insert just a few memoir-esque insertions, sparingly, and only as relevant to the interview. Good interviewers never make it about them, but nor do they shy away from inserting themselves carefully in order to close the intimate circle with their interlocutor and to reveal the glory and beauty of life's chance operations and mysterious synergies. I have met and connected with many amazing humans from around this planet in ways that I think matter to how I situate these narratives. Like Our Brave Foremothers, I focus here in this book entirely on women who have left our astral realm. These foremother interviews serve as place settings of time, place, culture, context, and history. Only a couple of them are ancients. Most are roughly from the 1600s to the 2020s. The century I was born into was one of extraordinary change, and we need to know it. All of these women, no matter what time they lived in, were dedicated to making some things better. Some wanted to make things better for women and girls around them. Others wanted to make things better for their communities, and still others wanted to free or defend their nation from outside forces. No matter what the current situation may be in these countries, whether they be free or in bondage to politics, economics, climate, social and internal inequity, or whatever other difficulties and disappointments they face, the dreams and the inspirations of these women for their people in their time hold enormous value for us today. Some were writers and artists, others were politicians, others combined their prowess across disciplines. Some were mothers of their country, and some were mothers to individuals who, in turn, had even bigger world-changing impact. By now, those who've seen anything I do needn't ask, why only Afro-descendant or other designated women of color? Where are the white women? As I said then, they are literally everywhere else. It isn't hard to find them, and maybe in reading about some other women, we will all have a deeper sense of pleasure and respect in the plurality of who gets to matter. Another thing I will add about focusing on the 20th century primarily, I found it easier to include women from Latin America, MENA, Middle East, North Africa, South Asia, etc. As the 20th century progressed and colonialism fell as a geopolitical construct, though certainly lingering as a socioeconomic one, along with the advent of rights and empowerment movements, these women were given liberty to cast off their whiteness adjacency, enough of them to populate a book at least. In the context of considering history today, I felt it was imperative to demonstrate that there were people, even in those times, who pushed back against that kind of cultural whitewashing, who were proud of their heritage and considered their non-white, non-colonial ancestry a strength, not a secret. May they all inspire us to reach out and inward at the same time, becoming a fuller version of ourselves and a more compassionate citizen of the world.